Now, here we have a beautiful building, and it's all going to be demolished due to a brand new building being put up. And you can see the space that's going to be eliminated here, right near Columbus Circle. Just an ideal spot for any new building. You could look at the demolition underway. They decided to work on this other building first before demolishing this nicer building. But you can see from all the windows, it's pretty much empty. And it's a very convenient location because it's right on West 60th, right near Columbus Circle. And if we turn west, you can see all buildings in the area here. All of these other buildings in 50 years are probably going to be torn down too for taller buildings because the developers can do that. Another view of the building, just from more of a side view of the demolition underway. It takes years to acquire the space to be able to do this. Not everyone wants to sell. And when people know you're going to put up an even bigger building, a more valuable building, they really charge you. Now, there was a beautiful Starbucks on the corner, along with some other stores here, but all gone. Now, imagine the cost that's undertaken. You have to have an empty building for years. And while you're getting all the permits, while you're getting all the designs done, it's important to have it ready to go. And so there's a big expense with that. That's part of why it's so expensive in New York to develop anything, because it takes so much time and effort. And right here, this is going to be right next to the Trump building. So it's probably going to be a similar height because they can do it per zoning. And you can see it's right next to Central Park. So it's going to be a beautiful development. And here we see from 60th and Broadway a slightly different angle of this development. And you can see the space that's going to be taken up. And then here we're looking west on 60th Street. And then as we turn, we're looking north on Broadway. And you can see the space that they're going to take. It's the other building also that they're going to take. But it's just a matter of time to tear everything down. It's not so easy tearing everything down. In New York, you actually have to take it down piece by piece. You can't just demolish a building. 30, 40 years ago, you could actually demolish a building with an implosion, but they don't want that anymore in New York City. And it's a beautiful area around here. Columbus Circle. And here we see the rest of Columbus Circle around where this building is going to be. You can see the great neighbors. Now, in about 100 years, a lot of the buildings around here are going to be tall. It's just a matter of time and development. If all goes well for New York. And you can see here, this is the Time Warner building. Beautiful building. Took years to develop, but it was worth it. A lot of stores here. It's just fabulous seeing the stores. Here we can see more of this development going on. It's just going to be a fantastic building. And you can see they're active on the non-public side. there was a restaurant that was here, an Indian restaurant, along with another shop. They tore that down completely, and it's going to be great. Now, for example of what can be done, there was a Bible Institute that was a neighbor here, and developers purchased the Bible Institute for a couple $100 million, and then they put up this beautiful building here in place of that Bible Institute. But it's worth it. I mean, 20 years from now, 40 years from now, it's all going to be worth it, because what you have is a prime area right near Columbus Circle, convenient to all the transportation, convenient to Lincoln Center. So a lot of people are willing to pay top dollar for this new development here that replaced the Bible Institute, and they're probably going to be willing to pay top dollar for anything that goes up here, because it's right on Lincoln Center. It's just going to be beautiful for any owner. That's one of the ideal spots. And it's probably going to be tall to compare to the Time Warner building here. It would make sense. And that's what they wanted to do with a museum that was also in Lincoln Center. And my theory is they're still going to do that. It's just the city hasn't decided yet whether to sell the building or not. But given the financial situation of New York now, I think a lot more prized locations are going to be sold off than in the past. It's basic economics. I mean, if you need to survive, you need to sell off things to get the money to kind of survive for another year. And that's what's going to happen, I think. In the distance, you can see a white building. That's a museum. Now, that building for decades has been under discussion what they're going to do with it. That's the building that I think, well, one of the properties I think eventually the city will want to auction off just to save itself. I mean, if you need to survive, doesn't it make sense to auction it off to a high bidder? And I think that's going to be happening a lot behind the scenes in New York, where you're going to have different properties auctioned off by the city because they have to. I mean, they're going to have multi-billions of dollars in deficits that they're going to have to make good on. How do you do that? You just got to sell things now to survive. And that's going to face a lot of other locations too, but especially New York. So that's a good look at the museum that has the potential to be auctioned off, or sold, the underlying property sold to a higher bidder. This is just a closer look at that museum that I was referring to. And you can see the beautiful neighbors that that museum has. It's in a prime location. That's why there was such a big debate about what was to be done with that museum.